Hey everybody, welcome to our barn building video series. In this video series, we're going to take you step by step through the entire construction process, offering detailed insights and tips along the way. So whether you're considering a barn kit for yourself or just curious about the process, this series will give you everything you need to know. Hey guys, I'm here with Roland. He's our rep from Rmax, and we're here to talk about the Thermasheath insulation weather-resistant board that we're using here. And if you have been following our video series, our timber frame barn build series, you know that we put a layer of siding behind this, so that when you're inside the barn, you see beautiful barn board, vertical 1x8, 1x10 barn board. And then we put this board on top of it, and then a final layer of outside vertical board sheathing over that. But there's a lot going on here to the untrained eye you're not going to really pick up on, and that's why we asked our expert friend to come and explain to us. Hey, good to see you, my friend.
Good to see you.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you for having me.
Please walk me through in layman's terms what's happening here.
Sure. Well, you're utilizing the 3-inch Rmax Thermasheath board manufactured by Rmax, which was a division of Sika. It provides the highest R value per inch. And one thing that's pretty obvious and sticks out right away is the foil facing on the product.
Yeah.
So the foil facing is unique, and the application in which you're utilizing it in this build is pretty unique because this is a multifunctional board. So it's not just insulation, and many people have used similar foam, rigid foam boards as insulation, but this one right here today is being used as really the entire building envelope and providing all of those separate control layers that you need to make a robust, thermally efficient, and energy efficient building envelope. Some of those protections include obviously the thermal from the insulation value, but we're also protecting this structure from air. It's an air barrier. It's going to be a water resistant barrier, and it's also going to control moisture vapor.
So R value, you mentioned R value, 3 inches. I mean, what are we talking, like R6, 10?
No, this is pretty incredible. At 3 inches, it's actually a 20.3.
Wow.
Yeah, so a lot of codes
like
today.
A 2x6 wall almost.
Absolutely, yeah. And a lot of codes today are R20,
yep.
And you can get all of the R value with a layer of continuous insulation on the outside.
Wow, amazing.
Now we can also do thinner profiles as well, but this product is available in 1/2 inch all the way up to 4.5 inches, so we can actually get an R31 out of this board.
Wow. Well, Roland, you mentioned. You talked a little bit about the outside wrap, and we were talking earlier about thermal bridging.
Yep.
When you stuff insulation or even spray foam,
absolutely,
a 2x6 wall bay, you still have thermal bridging, right? Can you explain that a little bit and how this is different for us?
Yeah, you know, there's a funny saying, and it's not my saying, but a lot of people probably watching this video in the New England market might know of a company called, or an organization called Building Science Corporation, and there's a gentleman over there, Joe Stieber, that says, "Don't eat your sweater." And I think that's the best way that we can explain the value of continuous insulation, where it's not on the inside, it's on the outside. Just like in the wintertime when you're cold, you put on that sweater and you immediately feel the warmth of being surrounded by thermal
on the outside
comfort,
layer, right?
Yeah. And you know, in metal frame construction, it's pretty significant because the R value of traditional cavity insulations in metal frame construction can be reduced by as much as 60%. A little bit less in wood framed. Wow. Obviously, wood isn't as thermally conductive as metal. Yeah. But 16 inches on center, insulating between the studs, you'd only have the thermal resistance of the 2x4.
Right, right. I mean, here with this building, I think the only wood that would really create thermal bridging would be our bucks around the windows.
Sure.
That's it, really.
Yep.
And we foamed those, but. So yeah, so we put the foil on the outside. They go all the way to the corner boards. They wrap. They go all the way up to where the insulation from the attic will come down. So absolutely, yeah, we did that. You mentioned the foil. It's funny. We had to stop installing it back here because of the way the sun hits. We had to all go get our sunglasses for installing it because of we're getting like a suntan working off of the foil. It was kind of funny. You could feel the heat, and then you go in the building and it's cooler.
Oh, exactly.
Already,
yes. So the downside is it's a little uncomfortable on the eyes sometimes in today's weather, but you know, those radiant properties that you're going to get, it's a benefit to having that face around. Yeah. Now, one thing that's important too, just to mention, is that This product can function as a water barrier, as an air barrier, but it has to be installed as a system.
Yeah.
And so, beyond just, applying this board or nailing it up, you've taken some real diligent steps to make sure that you've maintained air and water barrier continuity, and you've protected the product in the proper way. One thing, for example, is we've used these thermally broken self-sealing washers to attach the insulation.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
That's a thermal grip CI prong washer from
some rubber.
TrueFast.
Yep, like a rubber seal around the screw, right?
Well, it's a plastic material that collapses on itself, closes tight, making sure that no air or water would penetrate into that. Now, if you put that on, that's air and water tight. We don't have to do anything more to treat it. However, if you want to go to what we call a plastic grip CI prong washer, we could use something like this, and you can actually nail that on, and that can take the impact of a nail gun. So that's designed to be screwed, that's actually designed to be nailed. Now the one difference is one is self-sealing, one is not self-sealing. So you just have to be diligent, go back and cover it up with some pressure-sensitive aluminum tape.
Like what we did here.
Exactly.
Yep. So we actually used both, Roland. We had a box of these, and we did them on the front and I think 3/4 of both sides, and we ran out. And so we picked these up because locally they were available. So we ended up foil taping the screws and the caps.
Yep.
I will say though, as a contractor, it's worth an extra $10 or $20 a box to use this because it eliminates the step of trying to foil these things and dealing and trying to peel the paper off the foil and doing each individual one. It's kind of a PIA.
Absolutely.
So I would go with these all day long. Are there particular brands? This one's called Thermal Grip.
Yeah, that's a thermal grip CI prong washer from TrueFast. And the great thing about that one is that it's air and water tight when it sits flat.
Gotcha.
So that's a good indicator that's been applied successfully.
There's also another way you can seal washers, right? With that goop or whatever the stuff in the sausage tube.
Absolutely, yeah. Sika's known for making great sealants. And one sealant we have in the Rmax line is called RSeal 2000 LF, and it's a hybrid sealant that sticks and bonds to virtually any substrate.
Wow. Concrete,
certainly, obviously foil, wood. So that's a very versatile sealant as well.
Nice.
So the next thing that you want to consider in the building control layer is making sure that we are going to promote drainage and drying behind your cladding system. Right. And is this a good time to talk about that?
Yeah, I think it is because we're alternating 1x8, 1x10 boards throughout this. They're shiplap. It's a vertical seam.
Yep.
It's only a 1/2 inch shiplap. So you get, if this were a normal house and you had that inward negative pressure or whatever it is, drawing moisture in, it would absolutely go through. Here, we're still going to get water in, but hopefully, like we talked about, it'll dry from the backside, right?
Absolutely. And so with a vertical siding that you're applying here, we're going to have to put our strapping horizontally.
Right.
And a traditional strap horizontally might not provide as much drainage as we want, drainage and drying as we want, because there's not a lot of drainage that happens through a horizontal furring. But we have taken the extra step to utilize the roll-on Rainscreen product by Albuilt and Old Country Millwork.
Yeah.
And it's a .024 aluminum. It has a 3M adhesive on the back side of this. And look at the configuration of that product.
You can see right through it. Yeah.
That's going to promote good drainage and drying for any bulk water that penetrates the cladding system.
Different sizes of this too, right?
Absolutely, yeah. 16th and an 8th, I think, in this particular product.
Yep.
And they also make some other products more suited to commercial construction types and different cladding systems.
It's a great system. So I installed a bunch of this, and we were using tin snips. You can also bend it and break it. The peel and stick is easy to use. Every once in a while you get a little something that might come off like that. You push it back on, or you could just tack it on with a staple gun or like a roofing nailer or something like that.
Absolutely.
But the reality is, once the cladding goes on, it's going to get fastened on, and it won't be compressed like a lot of the other, fibrous type of rain screens that I've seen in the years past. Yeah, I like it, and the whole drying process. Yeah. I think, the boards will last longer and longer. They'll just be able to kind of get wet, but they'll dry. They're not going to stay wet.
It's the ultimate insurance policy on any build that you're doing is to ventilate your cladding. And ventilating your cladding is going to promote drainage and drying. It's going to create a capillary break of any kind of water that penetrates the cladding system. Yep. It'll create or relieve, I should say, hydrostatic pressure of water pushing its way into the building envelope. So it's a great insurance policy. So drain and dry your claddings.
I agree. Funny story or interesting story. About 20 years ago, we were doing a remodeling project on a house and wall fan. We didn't realize it, but they had Rainscreen on it. So it was, I think it was clapboard. It might have been tongue and groove horizontal boards. We started taking the boards off, and there was vertical strips. And there was open airflow, and they had rigged a really cool thing with some window screening at the top, so you had like a chimney effect. Trying. Those boards were well over 100 years old. Now this is back, probably had some lead paint on it too, which helps, but I couldn't believe the condition of the boards. And the paint condition was great. And I think it's the drying on the backside.
I think interestingly, that's probably not the oldest example of a rain screen, because I have heard actually that Viking architecture, if you can believe it or not, actually implemented rain screen cladding systems.
Wow, interesting. Yeah, that is very interesting. I do have a question for you, for the audience. What happens if I put a ladder up here, because I did a couple times, and we punctured this? What do we do about? What do you guys recommend for any? If I poke a hole in this?
It's super easy to fix that. So we can either utilize a piece of the pressure-sensitive aluminum tape, or we can use the R-Seal 2000 LF. Anything that's going to stick and stick to the substrate and cover it. It is important to patch them when you're utilizing it as the air and water barrier.
If you look around the building, you'll see some patches, and that was me with before I realized with the step ladder and poking through it. So the pressure-sensitive tape is great, by the way, and we also sealed all of our joints.
Yep.
And you had recommended that as well, and that kind of creates the whole, like a vapor barrier as well, right?
Absolutely, yes. Vapor barriers and water-resistant barriers, these are products, of course, but most importantly, in order for them to function properly, they have to be installed as a system. Yeah. So you can't just put the product up. You also have to treat your joints. You have to deal with your fenestrations and your rough openings, and you have to properly flash and seal those.
Amazing.
The great thing about it, though, is if you do get a puncture, you don't have to be too worried because of the closed cell matrix of the foam. And then don't forget, we also have another layer of foil on the backside.
That's right. So actually, if a puncture did happen, maybe a nail, right, or something.
It's a best practice to cover
water.
it. Yeah, if we can cover it, great. But don't. Yeah, there's 3 inches of closed cell foam behind that puncture.
Interesting question then. If I took a piece of this insulation and I just jammed it in a bucket of water, held it underwater for 10 minutes, an hour, 2 hours, what does it do to the foam? What happens?
I could tell you, but I think better yet, you should try it yourself. You should take a piece of foam, you should put it in that bucket, let it submerge, and then maybe in one of your later video series, you can show what happens.
What happens? Tell me anyway.
Well, nothing happens. And that's the great thing about it.
Shake it off. It's like a dog shaking off the fur, huh?
Exactly.
So it does not absorb water.
Does not absorb
unlike,
water.
Say fiberglass, where water gets into the walls and the fiberglass gets wet and the paper gets moldy, whatever. What about other insulation boards? How does this compared to other boards that are used on buildings?
Yeah, it's a great question, because you do have a lot of variety and options when it comes to foam plastic insulated sheathing and rigid foam boards.
Yep.
And look, they're all great. They're all designed to do a particular function in building and construction. You have expanded polystyrene, extruded polystyrene, and polyisocyanurate. I'm just partial to the polyisocyanurate that we manufacture and sell. We have the highest R value per inch. We are a thermoset material, so we're not a thermoplastic. And so if we were to hold this, an open flame to this product right here, eventually you're going to burn through this facer, but when the flame hits the foam, it's going to char. It's not going to melt and separate like a plastic spoon in the campfire type scenario. So having the highest R value per inch, having it be fire safe, and also sustainability. So negligible global warming, 0 ozone depletion, very low embodied carbon. We have a great sustainability story as well with this product.
Where do they make this stuff?
So we manufacture it in Greer, South Carolina. That's where we serve the New England market. But it's also made in Texas. It's made in Nevada.
Okay. Application, I should say cutting and fitting application. So we first started using I would call it a mineral wool knife, and that was too slow. We tried to score it. It's 3 inches thick.
3 inches.
We ended up using a circular saw with a dust mask. We learned that the hard way. And the circular saw just about makes it through. You can fold it, score it with a knife, and done. What does the manufacturer recommend for cutting and fitting and making cuts?
Yeah, I mean, it really depends upon the thickness of the product. So table saws and skill saws are great. There is going to be a dust consideration.
Yep.
What's great on the lower end of the range of thickness is that we can easily use a fillet knife, a chef's knife,
Yes.
a razor knife. You can score it, snap it really easy. When you get into the thicker profiles, 3 inches and above, so to speak, it may require a little bit more. But insulation knives, some people prefer serrated, some people prefer smooth.
Yep. We use the serrated kind of mineral wool knife.
Yeah.
I think looking back on it, we did not do this because we were outside here and stuff. But looking back in hindsight, I probably would have hooked up a vacuum to a circular saw and just tried to reduce some of that dust. It's dusty.
Yep.
We had a fan blowing, we had dust masks, but it was because it was 3 inches. We couldn't. It just took too long to cut it. But the circular saw worked great.
In our factories and in other OEM type situations, actually the preferred saw is actually a bandsaw.
Oh, yeah.
Of course. And then the other additional benefit is a smaller kerf on the blade, so you're not losing as much. But that does control dust a little bit. There is a available foam blade. I don't have any experience with it, but there is a blade on the market designed to reduce dust when cutting.
That's why I asked the question. I was wondering if there was a tool out there, like a cordless or a powered tool. But it's probably just a blade. Just a blade. Yep. Yeah, interesting. What else? What other considerations should we think about here, or what do we want to talk about? We talked about the rain screening product and the drying of the siding on the back side. We talked about sealing the joints.
Sealing the joints, sealing your joints. Rough opening flashing, I think. Now, you've chose to utilize the Vicor product.
Yes. Yeah.
I know we manufacture products as well. We have a product called R-Seal.
I'm sorry.
Oh, hey, no. We have a product called R-Seal 6.
This was available.
The great thing about this system, though, is that this is a means and method system that you've created here. Yep. And you want something that's readily available, commercially available, and it might be easier to find that particular product on the market locally than ours. Yeah. So we don't want that to hamper the utilization of our product.
Right.
We actually have engineered a commercial system where we sell everything turnkey. We have the joint closure, we have the flashings for rough openings, we have these thermally broken washers, and we can kind of provide that turnkey. Residential like this, though, it's good to go out and find things that work. This is our tape. This is our R-Seal 3000 tape. But yeah, it's good to make sure that you're flashing. Any kind of butyl flashing is primarily recommended around rough openings.
Yep. We did that on our sill.
Yep.
So that brings up a good question. So we're residential. Where would a residential, I know the answer, but for the video purposes, where would a residential contractor go to get 3-inch Thermasheath?
Yeah, and I tell you what, it's a lot easier to find than you think. So
it is. Okay.
we have stocking distributors in the New England market for sure. One distributor that we used for this particular build was IDI, and all this material was brought over by IDI. They just opened a monster facility in Norton, Mass.
Yep.
Or you can go to your local hardware store as well. And we work with a company called Blue Links, that Two Steps product all across this region, has great relationships with every retail lumber yard. So you can go to a insulation distributor, or you can go to your lumber yard.
Excellent. All right. Before we close this video, I think there's one more thing that we can talk about. What are the available thicknesses of your Thermasheath? I know you can go from 1/2 inch up to
4.5 inches.
4.5 inches.
Yeah.
So 1/2 inch, 5/8, 3/4, 1 inch.
It's we can actually customize a 0.06 if that's what you want.
Wow.
But traditionally it's going to be 1/2 inch, 3/4 inch, 1.5 inch, 2.5, 3.
And then the 6 inch must be what, an R?
Well, we only go up to 4.5 inches,
4.5,
and that's an R31.
It's right here.
2 inches were a 13.1, and for this 3 inches were a 20.3.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. Well, that is awesome. I really appreciate you coming out here
you.
and sharing this information with our audience. I would not have been able to say it probably as correctly or eloquently as you did, and thanks for coming. I really appreciate it.
We appreciate it.
Thanks, everybody.